But we're gonna start out with Pimpool getting absolutely shellacked by Uncle Sam. Okay,
6 hours tonight.
Well, I'm saying, is your baby born already?
No.
Oh,
Coming soon.
I'm talking about when your child
coming
comes.
soon. Bro is announcing like a fucking album release.
Yeah, well, I mean, what little sleep I already get probably will be less.
All right, well, there you go.
Right on, man. So we'll start light. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, the election
We'll be back in a second.
Is Tuesday, but people are already voting.
No, wait. We got to talk about what am I doing here?
Well, sure. I was going to start light, but you can go with whatever you want.
No, I mean, it's light to me, but like what? I thought I was banned. Didn't you say I was banned and blacklisted?
Maybe. I don't know the specifics. You have to. There's something to that effect.
Well, I can send you a link. But I got I teed it up here.
It's hard for me to remember verbatim everything I said, but
let's see what do we got here?
I would say.
Oh, I mean, you pretty specifically banned.
Did I say no Sam Seder at all?
Well, I think so. Here, wait a second.
Trouble. Sam Seder's blacklisted by a lot of podcasts.
Yeah. Did I say us?
I'm not exaggerating. This is not a joke. Yes, there are many large podcasts that have outright said they will never work with him, and it has nothing to do with being afraid to debate him. Sam Seder's off the list. This guy is a manipulative, lying con man.
I mean, that's pretty strong stuff.
My confusion comes from, did I say I would never have you on?
I don't have anything to do with him. And that's why Sam Seder makes all these videos, and he focuses on drama. I mean, the man's obsession with Dave Rubin is laughable.
I agree with that to this day.
Oh no, I actually I have a
did I say
real reason for that.
Did I say?
Yeah, of course.
I say I would never bring you on?
Oh yeah, you did.
Okay, I might have.
I don't know if I have that specific video teed up. I might though.
I may have. I usually, if I get like heated or something, but I tend not to be as definitive on things like this.
Well, it wasn't just that one time too. When you went on Patrick Bet-David's show, you said the same thing.
Well, but it's true.
What's true?
There are a lot of big shows that have blacklisted you.
Oh, I have no doubt.
It's not about you, nobody wanting to debate you. I mean, the first thing I asked was let's talk about the issues, and you immediately pulled up drama. That's
not drama. I mean, I think everybody wants to know. It's like a weird. If you, I used to be a scriptwriter, and if you put a loaded gun in the first scene and you don't resolve it, people are going to be distracted. So this way we can just deal with this, get that out of the way, and then move on to stuff that is more, I think, substantive.
Yeah. But that's it, right? It's not my business to tell other shows that have brought it up. But
I'm not concerned about other shows. I know why. I'm just curious. What am I doing here?
What are you doing here?
Yeah,
I decided to have you on. I don't know. I figured there were probably misconceptions you had about me. I think that a lot of what you think about what I say comes from clips and not the actual show. So there's
I don't really have conceptions of you.
This started because you said something that was untrue about my position on the death penalty, and I was like, I think Sam saw a clip that someone pulled out of context and didn't actually hear my 2-hour diatribe on. Death penalty.
I don't. I think actually what I was talking about, I don't think I ever said whether you believe in the death penalty or not. I mean,
you cited a quote where you said that I said something like,
I cited a quote, or did I play a video?
At the beginning of a video, Tim Pool agrees that people who commit treason should get the death penalty, is
that right? Do you have the video? You must have the video. No? Oh, wait a second.
And I just went, holy crap. And
let me see if I got it, because I'm pretty sure I remember this. It was in the context of you suing Kamala Harris. And you were on with Laura Loomer.
Right.
And you said the words.
Here we go.
People who get the death penalty, people who commit treason should get the death penalty.
What's the context of that sentence?
What's the context of that sentence?
Right. So there's a clip that's 5 seconds long.
Oh, no, but I watched the whole rest of it. I know you went back and forth, but it was so weird, because you should really, if you can find this and put this up, because what I found fascinating about it was that you literally did say on multiple times in that going back and forth, because apparently what happened is you got in trouble at one point with, I don't know, some streaming service about people calling for the death penalty or whatever it was. I don't know the background to that.
YouTube says you can't call for the death penalty as a legal mechanism.
Okay. And so she brought up, I think these people committed treason. They should get the death penalty. And you said,
I don't know if she said, I think she
I
said,
don't care what she said, really, for this sake. But I'm quite sure you said, if you commit treason, you should get the death penalty.
Now,
right now,
what words are you missing from that sentence? Because it sounds like you just heard a clip.
No. I watched the whole thing.
Okay, well then,
and
why
then
are you,
at one point afterwards,
okay, so let's pause. Let's pause.
Yeah, you said if you commit treason, you should get the death penalty, and you have been caught committing treason. Have you reconsidered your stance on capital punishment?
We'll break this down.
Sure.
Is it currently codified in law that if you commit treason, you are out, the penalty is death?
What do you mean by codified?
Like, is U.S. law states that the penalty for treason is death?
Not necessarily, but it is one.
It is, right. The penalty for treason is death.
What is the penalty for murder?
It varies. It can
Right. It can be the death penalty.
Exactly.
So it's the exact same dynamic as treason.
Yes.
Oh!
So if we're talking about, in that context, people levying...
Tim Pool, why are you talking about leniency in sentencing with a man who has consistently gone to the tort conference for the past decade for fun? Are you insane? Like, this, you're talking to a man who lives and dies by the tort. Okay? That is what he does for fun. Like, this is not a normal person. Okay? He reads Social Security reports for fun on his off time. This is what he does for fun. It makes no sense to me. Okay? I at least watch anime in the off season when I'm not fucking, when I'm not like covering the news or reading the news. Like, at least I have like some fun things that I do. Sam Seder's idea of fun is homework. Okay? Like sometimes I'll go on vacation with my family and I'll still stream there, right? And I'll care about like the local politics of the area that I go to, and it'll be fun to see like a unique perspective. Once again, repeating, Sam Seder's idea of fun is going to the tort conference. Tort, a wrongful act or an infringement of a right other than under contract, leading to a civil legal liability.
War against the United States, to which I said, I don't believe any of these people committed treason.
Correct.
Sedition would be trying to undermine or cause damage to the government.
Correct.
Treason,
that's not the issue.
Right. And so the context of that conversation is, one, I don't agree with the death penalty. And in no circumstances.
But you did say the words. If you committed treason, you should get the death penalty.
Okay. So once again, do you not understand?
Would you agree if someone commits murder, that they should get the death penalty?
No.
I agree with that.
Right.
But you did say if they commit treason, they should get the death penalty.
So if we're talking about the penalty for levying war against a country, whether you want it to or not, if a judge sentences someone to death, should they get the death penalty?
If a judge, I don't think people should get the death penalty under any circumstances.
If someone is shooting at another person, should they be shot at and killed?
If someone's shooting at another person, should they be shot at and killed?
If someone is committing an act of violence, and actively, is it within the legal rights of a person to return with lethal?
I like that Tim Pool's like a legal process in which there's an entire investigation conducted, a prosecution occurs, and you go to the civil, or you go to the criminal court structure, and then the punishment dished out to you is death, is the same as like in the moment shooting someone in self-defense. Like we are not on the same planet if you think that this is equivalent. Okay? You are talking about an entirely different scenario, brother. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's not even, you can't say that it's an analogy because it's not an analogy at all. One is entire process, like one is after apprehension, detainment, criminal prosecution, and then sentencing that comes afterwards, versus someone defending themselves in the moment.
Force.
You mean self-defense?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Right now, whether you want it to or not, if someone robs a liquor store, should they go to jail?
Should they go to jail?
Under the current laws, regardless of your opinions, should the police arrest the person?
Should the people arrest the person for robbing a liquor store?
Yes.
I mean, I think they should, yes.
Do you think in literally every single circumstance, then, no matter what happens if someone commits a robbery, they should be arrested?
I mean, I suppose there could be extenuating circumstances, but yes, if you commit a crime, you should be arrested.
So the clarification that I'm trying to make, it's not about, I don't think there's any real reason to try and go back and parse semantics. The concept was, if people are levying war against the United States, such as we're on the battlefield somewhere in Iraq or whatever, right?
Wait, this whole thing was about treason, where you were saying that...
Do you want me to explain the ideas, or do you want to just go in circles? I don't understand.
Well, I want you just to address what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to.
Instead of talking
You
about
interrupted
war.
me.
All right, go ahead, please.
Treason is levying war
Treason is levying war?
or providing aid to the enemy of the United States in a time of war.
Well, it also, you can be, I mean, there's been people who have been charged with treason when we're not in an active war, but yes, I guess.
Well, just-
But however you want to parse this, treason is a legal charge against somebody, and there are multiple potential penalties for that, one of which includes capital punishment. And
just for the sake of clarity, because in the show we're not talking about specifics of someone may or may not be wrongly charged. If you're asking me why I would say something like should be, it's rooted in this: treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses of the same overt act or confession in open court. So the issue at hand was when
I like that they left the empty chair on there. Like they didn't shut down that camera. What's happening here? I mean, that's like a production note, but like, what are we doing here? Like, come on, you're like a multi-million-dollar operator. You got like millions of dollars from the Russian government.
when we were talking and I said, I don't think any of these people committed treason. I don't think anything they've done is worthy of death. I don't agree with the death penalty. The return is, but what if they're levying war against us? And then someone decides their life should be forfeit.
I watched that video, and in fact, I remember that.
Hey, Hasan, I don't know just anything about Sam. Did he have a history in debates, or is he just that guy with the knowledge of both? He loves debating. He's very good at debating. And also on top of that, he is very knowledgeable. This is Sam. Sam loves doing this stuff. Like he truly enjoys this. I think a lot more than I do, in terms of like talking to silly people and like unwinding them step by step. Now, Tim Pool himself is not exactly the most apt, astute debater either. But yeah, he is. What do you mean Russian money? They're American. Tim Pool. Were you not around when okay, you're going to have to take this up with the Department of Justice and the FBI, my friend, because they disagree with you. Like, there was a whole investigation conducted into Tenet Media, which is precisely what Sam is going to be talking about, which is why he started talking about the death penalty for treason, because he's going to walk him through those steps and inevitably get to, has your position changed on death penalty for treason since you committed treason by receiving money from a foreign adversary to do propaganda in the United States of America in an active proxy war that's currently happening within Ukraine and Russia, which is technically within the confines of what Tim Pool had talked about, or you know, in terms of like treason and the death penalty for treason. So
this now, actually, we were going over the ridiculousness of your lawsuit, and I said, you know,
don't trust anything Daniel Strada Music says. What? Did you ever beat Elden Ring DLC 10/24/2024? Are you okay, Chatter?
Oh, Tim says he doesn't agree with the death penalty. That's fine. And then they played more where you say if you've committed treason, you should get the death penalty. I mean, and the interesting thing is, then I watched. Hold on, let me finish. And
do
then
you want to do a drama circle jerk, or do you want to actually talk about the ideas of the death penalty?
Ooh, he's already getting mad. It's like, dude, we're 10 minutes in. Why are you mad already? Why you have to be mad?
And what should or should not happen?
No, I think that I personally am against the death penalty. I think
So let's
you
talk
are
about
maybe against the death penalty.
I'm 100% against death penalty.
But what I found fascinating, it was as if you watch that video as it goes further along, and maybe you can release it. I don't know if it's behind a paywall or what. I watched it somewhere, so I know it exists. Maybe it was on Rumble. And if you go along, it's almost like you catch yourself and you realize, like, wait a second, I'm against the death penalty. So, no, you shouldn't get capital punishment. And that's one of the things that I think, like, in terms of, like, that I have always found fascinating about you. And that there's actually a great video by Timba Toast on how you vacillate between different political ideas as a way of, like, maintaining a certain brand.
What is the brand?
Well, I don't not exactly sure what you think the brand is, but
here's the challenge. Here's the challenge. You know, if I post a joke on X that is like over the top, for instance, I tweeted Kamala Harris is like Hitler and Stalin times 200, and she's gonna start 800 wars. That was actually written about in various liberal outlets as if it was a fact statement. And so I'm sitting here being like, can they not tell? Well, there's Poe's law. I get it. Sometimes they don't. But the issue at hand right now is just semantics. So instead of saying like, well,
dude, we're in the communication business. Like, our words are important. Now, listen,
Sure.
I'm about to pull out it was a joke defense. Very, very ineffective, I think.
Certainly understand people misinterpreting a tweet. Believe me, I've been there.
I will just say this for the sake of clarity. Right now, regardless of my opinions on law, should the law be that someone will receive the death penalty, then they should receive it. I oppose it.
But it doesn't necessarily, the treason, the punishment for treason is not necessarily the death penalty any more than it is with murder.
All right, so let's just try and...
Why would you ever say, if you're against death penalty...
Once again, misconception I'm trying to get past, so let me explain.
Okay.
In the circumstance where someone has committed a death-worthy trespass, I oppose the death penalty. I would advocate against it. We recently had a big case where there were two instances where people were put to death. One guy, the family even said it shouldn't happen. They had cut a deal with the prosecutor. It still happened. And that was, I believe it was, who was that? That was Missouri. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people who watch my show were quite outraged that a family would say no. But the issue at hand is I don't assert myself over the rest of the country in law, which means if the mechanism of the courts is as such, that's what should happen. I will fight against it. That's the semantic misunderstanding.
Oh, all right.
Let's just put it like this.
Because you were so offended. I mean, the reason why I thought I was here was because you were so offended that I said you were against the death penalty.
You said I was for it.
And I got confused when you said someone should get the death penalty
under a mechanism of law that I oppose.
Well, you never said those words.
But that was the whole conversation.
No, actually it wasn't.
Literally was.
We could play it.
But I mean, look, how about we just, instead of going back and forth and saying it was this show where these things were said,
I don't think he understands what opposing a law means. Like, you can't say you oppose the death penalty, but if that's currently the law, then you're on board with it. Like, then it should happen. That means you're not in opposition to the death penalty. I oppose capital punishment, which is why I will always say I oppose capital punishment. I'll even offer coverage to instances where capital punishment is occurring. Like specifically the case in Missouri or the one in Texas where like people with a lot of evidence as to their innocence are still executed by the state. Like, that is what opposition to the death penalty or opposition to capital punishment looks like. You know, the one in Texas was stayed. Well, the other one wasn't, but regardless, even if someone is guilty, I still oppose capital punishment, for the record. Like, regardless of whether there is enough information, enough evidence readily available of their innocence. I just genuinely oppose the death penalty in general. I don't think it's appropriate.
We lay it out on the table. There it is.
Okay, there.
Death penalty should be opposed.
We agree on that.
The government is a failed arbiter of who should live or die. This mechanism doesn't work at an institutional level.
I don't know that anybody is.
It makes it seem like he's opposing the death penalty now, specifically for treason, because he may or may not have, accidentally committed treason in terms of being directly financed and changing, being directly financed by a foreign adversary government.
Is a arbiter of who should live or die, but yes.
Excuse me. There is some context that is more challenging, such as if a man pointed a weapon at your children, would you decide that he should die?
I mean, if someone pointed a weapon at my children, I would attempt to do whatever I needed to do to stop them. But that's different
Up to and
than
including lethal force.
I mean, if that's what it took, of course.
So that is you making the decision that you will take action which may lead to the death of an individual.
Oh yeah, I mean I would suffer the consequences, but I don't believe in general that that in capital punishment. I mean that's not capital punishment. That's
I agree. I'm just saying
self-defense or
in certain circumstances, a person will decide someone may be about to die. And there's other issues, of course, like whether to render medical aid is a different circumstance. If someone is already dying, then there's if someone is in peril but you can't save them. But in terms of a human being making an active decision to end someone's life, there are many circumstances where someone will decide that they are the arbiter of that decision. Police officers do it every day. Soldiers do it every day, and often regular people. We have the Penny trial in New York right now, where they've got the trial going on for the Daniel Penny in New York, where he put that guy in the chokehold. And the guy died. He made that decision at that point.
He killed the guy.
He did. And he made that decision for whatever reason. I am going to apply this technique to this man, may result in death. So at a certain point, someone makes that choice. The question then is, do we agree that the choice was necessary or that they were backed into a corner? And that's a difficult decision. So I would just put it this way. I think in a perfect world...
This has nothing to do with capital punishment, though.
It's about whether someone chooses someone else should die.
Right, but that has nothing to do with capital punishment.
They share
capital punishment is
they
definitionally
someone choosing to die.
a punishment that is put out by the government, as opposed to an individual's decision as to whether or not they're going to apply lethal force to somebody. It has nothing to do with it. You would never say
they're literally
that Penny provided capital punishment to that guy on the subway because
anyone's making that argument.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with capital punishment.
Just in the sense that someone's making a decision over someone's death, and the question being, in the case of self-defense, I agree there are circumstances, and in the case of capital punishment, I agree there are no circumstances.
Okay.
I don't believe there's a reality where the government has successfully subdued an individual who they are no longer a threat, and then they just decide 20 years later, now let's kill the person. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I do not believe that we should have capital punishment. I do not believe in the death penalty.
How do we stop it?
Well, I mean, there have been times in the past where we've come close, I think. Sadly, I think because of all of the ginned up stuff about crime in this country over the past couple of years.
Yes, talk about the crime hysteria. Crime hysteria. Crime panic, crime hysteria time. Let's do it.
I think we're moving in the wrong direction. I think the Democrats actually took it out of their platform this year that they're against the capital punishment. It is a problem. There is a cost associated with the attempts to scare people about crime in this country, and that's one of the costs, that we move further away from some type of positive public policy.
4% of death row inmates are likely innocent. And that means at an institutional level, people in this country accept 4 in 100 people.
Wait, what? Like, is he? I'm confused as to what Tim is arguing for here. I'm not going to lie, because it's like you're arguing against capital punishment, but then you're tying it back to like how it might be appropriate under certain circumstances because like self-defense exists. And it's like, if you think the percentage of 4% in a legal structure where like innocent people are executed by the state is unconscionable. I don't even know what the percentage of like self-defense instances that actually end up shooting someone that had no business being shot at all, but simply because of castle doctrine, the person got away with it under our current legal system. That number has to be higher than 4%, like significantly higher than 4%. So innocent executions in the heat of the moment are significantly fucking higher. Like executing an innocent person because you were fearful of them is significantly higher. There's a shit ton of manslaughter cases specifically surrounding that. So you should be against that too, I guess, if that's your principle.
Will be murdered by the state, unjustly killed for a sense of security. I reject that outright.
Yeah, I mean, I think both in terms of efficacy, but even in terms of, I think if you feel that there is a situation wherein, without a threat to anybody, right? I mean, these people are all in jail, that there is a justification to kill someone in cold blood, then I think it just becomes a negotiation as to when it's not.
You know what really gets me too is what I hear from a lot of people is, what about when you've seen on video they're harming a child or they're doing something? And it's funny because in a circumstance where an individual literally witnesses a crime happening, it's easy to say, sure, we can, like if you're out in public and you see someone committing an egregious crime that is going to cause great bodily harm or death. But why does that justify an institutional, national level mechanism by which the government can decide that someone dies? I think it comes down to 12 people walk into a room, someone they've never met before points to a person they've never met and they say, trust me, kill him. And these people are like, well, I guess. I think that's insanity.
No, I agree. Yeah. I mean, you brought up the Penny thing, and I think that's why it's even that much more egregious, in my opinion, his killing of that man, because I don't believe in that situation there was any type of threat that justified holding this guy in a chokehold for that many minutes at all, frankly, for that matter.
What do you think like the penalty should be? Like, do you think like they're charging him, I think, with negligent? Is it negligent homicide? I'm not sure.
Or at the very least, I would imagine manslaughter. But, in generally, as a rule, I don't really parse out court cases. I mean, if there's a charge, as a matter of public policy, there are instances where I think that people should be charged.
They're having a conversation around capital punishment in a way where Tim Pool is agreeing with him on principle, but also simultaneously still making it seem like he's disagreeing with him. And that's why it's confusing and it makes no sense. I'm going to skip this.
There are people, I mean, and it put and again,
when do they move on to some other shit?
The guy is physically assaulted. Scott, we knew, in 2019. Stuff happened.
Because I suspect that like they will then move into like crime panic.
Happens in the subway all the time.
New York's been getting pretty wild. I suppose it's relative to the amount of crime, but
been getting wild in what way?
There were, I think, last year, like 25 people were pushed in front of trains.
I mean, I can tell you that crime in New York City is, down still around historic lows. Yeah.
New York City has one of the most robust, the most robust public transit structure in the United States of America. It's obviously still significantly lower than like our European counterparts or, places like Japan, places like China. But the daily commuter traffic is massive, right? So 25 people being pushed in front of trains is a statistic that comes across as very like emotional and very, it freaks out people. You're like, what the fuck? That's crazy. That's an unacceptable amount of murder. It's like, yeah, of course it is. A single murder is unacceptable. But you have to analyze that within the framework of millions of people commuting every single day. Okay? So when you look at the statistics like that, when you look at the actual statistics, it is such a tiny margin. It is such a tiny margin of people that completely dismantling the public transit structure in an effort to combat this would be absolutely ridiculous. So you still have to look at the actual rates of crime in general. You cannot. This is part of the problem with the media as well, and the coverage of this kind of stuff, where the media loves feeding into the crime panic in general, and it personally creates this environment where a lot of people are making false assumptions about the reality. Is On going to hang out for sushi? I told him jokingly, I was like, I jokingly asked him that like a week prior to this, and he's like, I'm not eating anything over there. That's what he said.
I'm old, so I remember New York in the late 80s. And I mean, it's like
3 years ago. Sorry, I was wrong. Yeah, it was in 2022. I think it was.
Oh, well, I mean, listen, during COVID, we had a once in a lifetime event, hopefully, knock on wood. And a lot of things got messed up, but crime is back down. You know, the only crime that has gone up, which is fascinating. And for all of the BS that we heard over the past couple of years about, shoplifting and smash and grab and all that. Do you know what the one major crime that is up?
Which one?
The most statistically? It's actually shoplifting. Shoplifting went up in 2023, and it is now because it went down during COVID. So as much as we heard, and I know you've talked about this quite a bit, and I think it's been misrepresented in a lot of respects. I don't think Sam is right on this data, by the way, because overall shoplifting and theft went up in accordance to foot traffic going up. Like the rate was a little bit higher than if it was rate adjusted, it would maybe outperform, because when foot traffic goes up, when more people are shopping, there's going to be more people shoplifting, right? The one data point that actually went up was homicides, and that was a brief blip. All of the shoplifting was up, and people are gone mayhem. It's crazy. It was actually below where it was in 2019, and it is now back up to where it was in 2019.
I think,
and because COVID was, screwed up with our society so much. But again, you ask me.
Another aspect of this also is a calculated decision made by the grocery stores themselves, like these chains. The calculated decision to make self-checkout readily accessible, readily available, in an effort to reduce the number of people working the cash registers, in an effort to reduce the number of people that are employed by the grocery store. They know that this will increase shrink. They know that this will cause people to steal stuff, okay? Because when he's saying shoplifting, he's not specifically just talking about like people going in and doing smash and grabs, right? What you see in the media. Because those smash and grabs, while they can be publicized heavily, are not going to make up for billions of dollars. Actually, the people that are stealing are people like you. It's the people that are complaining about shoplifting that every now and then yoink a fucking Snickers bar at the self-checkout and go, one for me, one for the store type shit, right? Like that is what is contributing to the overall shrink. And companies know that. They know that if you have self-checkout, people are going to steal some shit. Except the cost for them to employ cashiers and with all their benefits and with all the workplace compensation and all of the other stuff that they have to offer people that they hire, the profit margins still remain high when they automate that process, even if people steal shit. Okay? Just so you understand. So this is something that every grocery store corporate executive knows. This is a reality that they know, because they've made this calculation. And what's really interesting about it is that while I can comprehend this by thinking about this logically, and yet these brilliant minds in the media have never really addressed that at all. You know? It's really, really interesting. Self-checkout is what increases shrink. Okay? That's what, and that is happening across the board. It's not just happening in like Oakland, or it's not just happening in neighborhoods where grocery stores are closing. It's happening all across the board. And they know that it's happening all across the board. And they've built that additional shrink into their profit margins. They know that it's going to happen, but it's still significantly cheaper for them to cut their workforce and allow people to steal some, you know?
Why are we going the wrong direction with capital punishment? I would say it is the absolute BS that has been shoveled. I don't watch your show enough to know, although I've seen people on here who, when Emma was on, who promote this idea that there was like this explosion of crime. And in fact, what ends up happening is that, yes, during COVID, there was a spike. And now we're back down. And the only thing that is back at 2019 levels is actually shoplifting, because it had gone down and it's gone back up because we're back to normal.
So I'm trying to pull up the Marshall Project. This is a good one.
What?
So we had these, this was the story that happened, and this is what's a cause for contention. The FBI released crime data showing that crime had gone down. And, during the presidential debates, David Muir fact-checked Donald Trump saying, actually, crime is down. However, recently, the FBI released new crime data showing that actually it was up. It was up, I believe, 4.5.
Wait, what? Hold on 1 second. Let me just fix my screens real quick because I'm having some issues here. Okay. Oh, Sam is going to cook him on this.
When? What year?
The year prior, 2021.
That it was up.
Yeah. So the latest data that we...
Dude, what are you talking about? Crime is down from 2023 to 2024. That's just the truth. David Muir is correct in correcting Donald Trump. You can't just go back and be like, well, FBI found out that the crime was actually up. Yeah. Yeah, it was up in 2021. Okay. I don't know if you know this, but there's a presidential election happening, which could have clued you in on what year it is, considering that that was in the process of a presidential debate.
But we knew. No, it was actually 2022. We knew. We knew. Yeah, it was 2022.
I'm sorry, the increase from 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah,
during COVID. In the wake of COVID, 2022 was up because the data reporting was not complete. But if you look at 2023 data, which is now they have got enough of the police departments online that 94 point, I don't know, something of the country is covered, you will find that crime is down in 2023.
So do you think, I think one of the issues...
We had a rise because of COVID, and now it's dropping back down. But again, let's also be clear on this. If you compare 1990 crime with today, it's basically like this. It's just straight down on that.
You want to know something interesting? You know what one of the biggest factors in the decline in murder is? Cell phones. So back in the day, in the 90s, if somebody got stabbed, somebody had to run to a payphone to try and call 911, and that created a massive gap between first response and medical treatment. And so around the time cell phones came out, you see a massive drop in murder charges and homicides. People immediately started thinking wow, crime is down. And it's well, no, look at the crime data. It is down, it is going down, but it's not the same. There's a decline in crime and a sharp decline in murder because now people were instantly calling 911 and first responders were arriving on scene much more quickly. So that's
okay. But also the other part was, that's interesting.
Crime's been going down.
Crime has been going down. I mean, there's a lot of theories about it. I happen to think it's a function of lead, to be honest with you.
I agree. Lead and gasoline.
Lead and gasoline and lead regulation. It's another example of strong government regulation bringing about benefits that we couldn't even imagine.
I agree. What do you think? I don't understand the mechanism by which lead made crime happen. I saw the reports though, where
Well, I mean, lead is a neurotoxin, and if if you have brain damage, you're more likely to be.
That is the sad state of affairs, is that, like, yes, a big chunk of our Gen Xers are just straightforwardly brain damaged. It's kind of a wild reality to reckon with, but yeah, a lot of our boomers, but specifically Gen X, is the lead generation, is the lead poison generation. And yeah, it is perhaps one of the major reasons as to why they are so incredibly violent. Yeah. This is probably one of the most resilient theories I've ever seen on the matter, in terms of like why there was such historic highs in crime, and how we have basically reached historic lows in crime. Like, the lead theory is like I don't think it's like a crazy conspiracy, is what I'm saying. I don't,
maybe violent or antisocial.
That's crazy. Like in the 70s when we had leaded gasoline and it's just pumping out of all these cars, people are effectively having some kind of effect on their brain that
it aggregates. And so if you are living in areas that had a lot of lead paint, hadn't been remediated, and on top of that, you're getting gasoline that's in the air, or I should say lead that is, in the air because of gas, that accumulates in your brain, and it creates neurotoxin. That's why we have that problem in Flint, Michigan,
right,
with the lead poisoning. We have a lot of children, who have special needs, and there is data. I mean, this is, it's very difficult to assess this stuff, but there's data that shows that about 20 years after lead gasoline is outlawed, or lead in gasoline is outlawed, you see a precipitous drop in crime. This happened both internationally and in this country.
What do you think about phthalates? Are you familiar?
No.
So plastic chemicals leaching into our food.
Oh, yeah.
Even these cans. So I'm going to give a shout out to Liquid Death. They'll get mad at me, I guess. So Liquid Death is water in cans, and it says death to plastic. But every single aluminum can is lined with plastic. So it's all leaching into our, even these midriffs. They say they're endocrine disruptors. So they're affecting people's hormone regulation, hormone balance. This could lead to, depending on the study, hormone imbalance could lead to like emotional disturbances or dissociative.
This part I don't understand, because I love drinking just cans. I love slamming Diet Cokes all day, every day. And I also happen to pay close attention to my testosterone levels. Like, I have a pretty healthy, relatively balanced diet on top of that. And I just don't know. Like, I feel like if there was someone who would get hit with the microplastics, make you gay shit, which is what like his underlying theory is here, like, I'd be the number one person who is homified, because I'm not even at this point. I'm mostly macroplastic. I've moved beyond microplastic.
Or like identity issues.
This is one of the reasons why, since we are a couple of days away from an election,
I'm such a soda boy.
I think it's so important to make sure that Donald Trump is not in a position to appoint any more Supreme Court justices. I mean, the damage has been done, but it could be rectified, because one of the things that the Supreme Court has done in its assault on what is known as the Chevron doctrine, and deference, is it will over time inhibit the ability of something like the EPA or the USDA or the FDA from assessing in real time that there is a problem with certain products that is poisoning our environment or poisoning our people, and it will inhibit their ability to address it, because we don't know in the future, and certainly if what chemicals, we discovered this over time, right? We didn't know this when plastics are fantastic. And then we start to realize there's these PFAS, there's these things that you mentioned, maybe in the context of fracking, there are certain things leaching into water, but you probably know that you can't just there's no, I test water and then all the bad stuff comes back on the test sheet. You must look for specific things. Well, what this Supreme Court has done is inhibited, and this actually is even a problem for investors like the SEC and other agencies. They have inhibited the ability of these agencies to do their work as scientists, as financial regulators, find problems that exist that were not contemplated by Congress and act upon them. Because Congress doesn't have the ability, to act on every single or anticipate every single substance that may be a problem for people, or high
fructose corn syrup.
I mean, that's also a problem. That was under the Nixon administration. They decided they wanted to increase the amount of money that expendable money that people had. So they decided to subsidize corn and make all the food cheaper. But
isn't it weird how the high fructose corn syrup things happens? They subsidize corn, so then these researchers are like, corn's so cheap now because it's being paid for by the government, by taxpayers, that we can produce. It's actually difficult to make high fructose corn syrup. It's more expensive than sugar, but the government subsidy has resulted in
100%. It's also the filler in all our foods.
Yeah. I was reading something recently that said that the high colon cancer rate among young people is due to emulsifiers. They're using
This looks like Temple receiving an entry-level college class. Yeah. It is not as contentious as I thought it was going to be. I still appreciate it. I think it's good for Temple's audience to have a better, wait for it. Okay. All I'm saying is it's good for Temple's audience to get an introduction to someone like Samuel Seder in a non-adversarial setting like this, because they'll learn some shit, hopefully.
Gellan gum and guar gum and these things in dairy products. So, or not even just dairy products, but to make it seem like it's fatty. And so you're actually just eating this gum stuff that gunks up your insides. I don't know how you appropriately regulate or deal with things like that, because it's like you're saying, we don't know what it's going to do until we have all this data and research for a long period of time.
I mean, we could regulate against it. I wasn't quite a
Tim is like, look at us. Isn't this world crazy? Yeah, he is doing that.
Fan of Michael Bloomberg, but one of the things he did was, I think it was during the Bloomberg administration, there were polysaturated fats, I think it was, that were outlawed in New York City. I think that's become the norm around the country. Even you couldn't buy a 40-ounce soda.
That was kind of weird.
Not really, because it's the same principle, right? I mean, the fact is that and the pushback from conservatives in this was so ridiculous, because look, I can't go buy a pony version of a beer. I don't want a 12-ounce beer.
It's not illegal.
I want to, but I can't, it's not available to me. I mean, the size distribution, what difference does it make? At the end of the day.
Right, well, that's true, because people just bought 2 sodas.
It is.
Speak for yourself, brother. You better not be advocating to make my beer gay. I want multiple beers. I need to slam them back.
Yeah, I mean, if you buy 2 sodas, at least you're trying to basically, you're not. You're not outlawing sodas or whatnot, but you're trying to encourage less cost, essentially, for society, right? Because more people get diabetes, that ends up costing society more. I mean, so there's a lot of value to regulation. Look, we saw this in the context of light bulbs. The light technology we have in here, right? All these LEDs It's a lot cooler in here than it would be if we had the old-timey lights.
Oh, they'd burn out too.
The LEDs don't. They're cheaper. It took a couple of years before you got the technology was better. But maybe you remember this, but the outrage by conservatives over the light bulbs, and we hear Trump talk about this too with the toilets and whatnot. Incidentally, I'm very sorry. You have a very fancy toilet. And you have a very fancy toilet.
Oh my God. He dumped in there. He dumped it. Yo, that's crazy. He did not just dump. He did not dump in Tim Pool. That is an act of resistance right there.
Just.
Well, it wouldn't flush.
You got to, because it's a fancy toilet. It's trying to save water. We try, man. So
no, I appreciate that.
But you end up having to press it several times, and then
it didn't work for me.
Should we just get the regular one? The regular?
I don't know what you should do, but maybe I'll call the authorities because
Well, I mean, but that's kind of an issue.
That's insane. That is an insane thing to say. He's like, you should call the authorities because I left a big one in there.
Right. We have
some shit I would say. It's funny hearing Sam Seder say that.
This like high-end eco toilet. It will.
Well, it's a bidet, and it's fantastic. I really enjoyed that part of it. It's just,
yeah, bidets are the
but
best.
It won't flush.
It didn't flush.
Yeah, people keep asking, like, I don't understand. I'm like, you got to press it like 3 times because it has like a sensor.
I pressed it like 5.
So I mean, this kind of feels like an example. So we agree. We want to reduce excess waste. We want to reduce overuse. Waste in general. Like we don't want to produce waste. We want to not waste things like fresh water. But now we have a toilet that requires 5 flushes because we tried doing the right thing.
Well, I mean, look, you just bought the wrong toilet. I mean,
one downstairs and have the
I have low flow. You can find low flow, manual toilets. I mean, that's a high end toilet.
This conversation is getting derailed.
But, I mean, the bottom line is all of these. There are definitely regulations. Nobody's forcing you to buy that toilet, but there are definitely regulations that we find over time are not as effective as we thought. But the bottom line is all of this deregulation that we're seeing is a function of largely certainly of conservatives, but largely a function of the Republican Party. And now we see, for me, Kamala Harris would not be the first person that I would vote for, but in terms of the Supreme Court, that alone is enough for me.
How do we balance
and federal courts? I would say too broadly. I mean,
how do we balance this? Right. So there's a push and pull between private and public. There are, I've never been a laissez-faire libertarian guy. I've never heard a good argument from a libertarian about how you protect water. I've often brought up the Clean Water Restoration Act. Are you familiar?
A little bit.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It's just I think it was the 70s. I'm not sure if it was the Cuyahoga River.
It was the Cuyahoga River in Ohio that was on fire, and that's where we got the EPA from.
Right. And people were like, why is this? And what ends up happening is all of these corporations say, don't look at me. I only did a little bit. And it's like, well, yeah, but literally everybody doing a little bit is an avalanche.
Yes, of course.
And I've never heard a good answer for how you deal with something like that. Just claiming someone owns the river changes nothing.
No, of course it doesn't. I mean, I've had many, many debates. People can.
So what we've learned so far is that Tim Pool is, one, a steady opponent, a steady opponent of capital punishment, and 2, is an environmentalist. 39 minutes in, and the entire conversation has been Tim Pool agreeing with Sam that capital punishment is unconscionable, and that 2, we really have to do climate change initiatives. We really should not have gutted the EPA. It seems like Tim Pool is voting for maybe not even Kamala Harris out of the anger that he has towards Kamala Harris's lackluster approach to climate change initiatives. Is that what's going on? Am I hearing this correctly? This seems very different than the Trump will win every state by a landslide Tim Pool from 2020. Tim Pool is a PSL pilled, it seems.
can look on my channel for my debates with libertarians, and at one point it all just turns into ridiculous mush with libertarians. And look, there's the idea that you are either pro-regulation or anti-regulation. To be anti-regulation is, in my estimation, absurd. But that doesn't mean that you don't look at each regulation and make an assessment as to whether it's functioning or not. There's a lot of local regulations that I think are unhelpful at times. I'm sure on a federal level there are some regulations that are unhelpful. But the bottom line is, fundamentally,
this kind of stuff annoys me though, because it's like guys like this who are otherwise like amoral, who are otherwise like valueless, can so quickly behave like a chameleon in any sort of conversation, you know, and they can suit. They can basically change their entire worldview just for the sake of that conversation, and then just go back to the regular bullshit. And I don't know. I find it a little bit aggravating. I find it a little bit annoying. There are a lot of people there are a lot of people I see, like Tim Pool is a propagandist for sure. Obviously he's a right-wing guy, but there's even people in like the debate space, for example, that will, that are very clearly not motivated by empathy and don't have, a world view that revolves around like doing no harm or minimizing harm or anything like that. And they can just like, in these, depending on who their opponent is, they can turn around and just, you know, argue on the exact opposite sides of a position. They're like debate mercenaries, basically. And I don't think their audiences punish them enough for it anyway. Like, I don't think people will punish. That's why D is on his pro-Palestine arc right now and debating Zionists and blaming you for affecting the movement for worse. I like that his entire worldview is just motivated by whatever, like being at odds with me, no matter what it is. Yeah, he's the true advocate for the Palestinian cause after advocating to genocide them and continuing to defend that genocide for a year of said genocide. And now he's going to be the true champion of the pro-Palestinian cause, and be like, Hasan is the bad guy. I don't believe that he is actually flipped. This chatter keeps saying he is, or this chatter keeps saying he has flipped, but good luck. You know? Like I said, if you came out pro-Israel on October 7th, he would have been pro-Palestine, probably. But that is precisely what I'm talking about. That is actually what I'm talking about, which is that like a lot of these people just have like an enemy that they've designated. Like with Destiny, it's obvious. With Destiny is obvious. It's like he has tailored a lot of his content and a lot of his ideology around like being in opposition to me. So anything that drives a wedge, he will try to utilize, which is very strange. But one thing that is clear is that yes, he has no consistent set of principles or values. But he is rhetorically skilled enough to be able to, I guess, dupe people, especially in like short bursts. When something is like clipped in a TikTok debate format or whatever, he can get people to be like, yeah, this guy seems to be on my team or whatever. And most people don't interrogate or examine the full scope of their knowledge or their opinions or their advocacy. But and that's pretty much it. Is it successful? Are you noticing more hate or not? Not really. I don't think it's that strange because he's definitely getting bred of that tactic. I know, but I think ultimately it doesn't really matter. Let's continue.
Do you allow the government to have this ability to regulate? The idea that we have, that it inhibits the free market in some way, I think the idea of a free market is absurd, doesn't exist. But beyond that, we're always regulating the market. It's just a question for whose benefit are we regulating it? That's the bottom line.
I think free markets can only exist temporarily until someone amasses power and then displaces the market and becomes the power structure.
There is no, like, what is a free market?
It would be like 10 people who live 10 miles from each other, they trade periodically. But once you get to a point where anyone controls one resource, you start to get power displacement, and then you'll end up with power centralizing.
Yes, well, the first thing that you're talking about, hasn't existed in
forever.
Forever. I mean, really.
But
if he's saying anything pro-Palestine, it's because the tides have turned so much further than they ever were, and it's more beneficial from a standpoint to ride both sides now. Yeah, that's probably what it is. But good luck to him. I hope that he finds peace one day and stops relentlessly trying to smear me with his maybe 3,000 cultish freaks that are in here probably every single day, more than they even watch him. The reality of the matter is it'll never happen because he makes money off of that.
But it's like, I talk about this with left libertarianism because a lot of people on the right say it doesn't exist. And I'm like, it absolutely does. It's hippies living on a farm. You know what I mean? That's left libertarianism. They're just hippies on a farm. There's no need for great power structures or police because 10 people living on a farm get along just fine.
Yeah,
but scaling things up is where...
but and maybe they're completely self-sufficient, but they got there in some fashion, and it wasn't they drove on roads that were built
Right.
by a society. So.
It is funny because I always hear libertarians say that it's a meme who's going to build the roads, and I never actually get a response.
Well,
Like
you could find private companies that are going to build roads, but they're
they do.
Yes, but they're not going to build.
The trap card. Never tell a deregulation, anarcho-capitalist, libertarian slanted guy how roads are built. Okay? Never tell them that. You'll destroy their worldview. Okay? It's pretty funny that this ideology has existed for so long, and yet they have seemingly not come across like a coherent way to get around the initial infrastructure expenditure necessary. Like they say toll roads and whatnot, but there's still a massive amount of expenditure that you need to put down before you get to that process. And it's like virtually impossible. It is virtually impossible to do that with simple tolls. So it's pretty funny. Sam is taking calls from any libertarian who will speak with him to debate on the subject, and they've all been destroyed so badly that none even bother to call anymore. Yeah, I will never understand like how this genuine issue is presented to libertarians on a regular basis, and they never have an answer for it. Like I've yet to hear a coherent counter argument to a concept as simple as fucking roads. Like there are varying degrees of anarchist thought on this matter. You have minarchists who believe in like small government because you still need to have a court structure, right? To enforce contracts. That's another fun argument that I'm sure Sam engages with all the time. But it's just, yeah, you bring up the court system, you bring up the enforcement of the court system, and all of a sudden, bedlam. No coherent, reasonable counter argument to either of these things where you're like, okay, So you want a minimal government, you want a court structure. Who's going to do the contract enforcement? Zapatistas have roads. CNT had roads. The anarchists in Manchuria had roads, though. Yeah, that's different. We're talking about anarcho-capitalists. It is like one is the abolition of hierarchy and the democratization of all matter, all aspects of governance. The other is only unjustifiable hierarchies where might is right and money plays a significantly larger role, where there is no, there is no structure at all. There's no enforcement at all.
Build it to everywhere, like out here, I
We
mean,
had to build this road.
well, you built the road, not the paved one.
The no, the one that goes onto the property, we had to build.
You're not
Well, yes,
fooling
of course,
libertarians
of course,
by
but,
bringing up them
but,
bitch-ass roads. Libertarians, which tend to be smarter people, you somehow think that the thing that's going to stump us and be like, damn, fuck this libertarian shit, is the motherfucking roads. This is level 1 shit. You not fooling now libertarian by bringing up them bitch-ass roads.
So what's the, like, who builds it? What are you going to do? You're just going to pave it yourself, like Tim Pool said? Because roads are, at the end of the day, a circuit. They have to connect. Railroads are private corporations for what it's worth. Yeah. And that process has been fantastic. Also, once again, tremendous amount of government expenditure on that as well. Heavily regulated, would be significantly more efficient if nationalized. Still requires, there is no massive infrastructure project. There is no massive infrastructure project like that was not built with government interference. Okay? Roads are built by the government and then given to private contractors. Railroads still similar structure.
Fuck them hoe ass roads, man.
The paved one gives you the opportunity to, that's the way you get to the airport.
Yeah. So I guess the point about regulation is, I certainly agree. It's like Republicans across the board are almost always talking about deregulation. But
Yeah, it's absurd.
But I don't see Democrats talking about cleaning regulation either. Right? There's a give and take.
What?
Let me give you a better example.
What does cleaning regulation mean?
Getting rid of the bad ones.
Oh my God. I mean, I
Or
would
like
say so
reforming.
to an excessive standpoint. I mean, this is, and I'm not speaking positively of this, but that guy Cass Sunstein underneath under the Obama administration, it was absurd. The idea, look, I don't think you ever have to worry about the Democrats putting.
I agree with you almost 100% on everything. But just as a devil's advocate, how does this line of thinking apply to NASA versus SpaceX in terms of success and efficiency of systems? I'd assume it's not a public versus private perfect example, but yeah, curious of your thoughts. Yeah, that's actually a wonderful question. SpaceX is NASA. You're doing the railroad argument again. It's the government building it and then offering, like government building the underlying infrastructure and then handing the keys to a private corporation. and then still continuously funding that private corporation. That is, SpaceX is funded by the government. It's comprised almost entirely of former JPL NASA engineers. The major issue with the major argument against this in terms of like aerospace manufacturing and technological achievements that occur in the field of aerospace is that when it's funded by the government gets to say, because it might be, politically sound, we're spending too much money on this shit. Okay? When it's at least a private contractor, they can give the same amount of money, if not more money. Okay? But it's hidden, as it's written off as an expenditure that isn't cut, because we have no mechanism of saying we got to lower the amount of subsidies that we're offering to private corporations, because the private-public partnership is the method in the United States of America. That is the saddest aspect of this. These massive technological improvements that have been life-changing have almost always come from the public sector, because massive technological leaps require an endless amount of failure. Private corporations have short-term profit motives. Therefore, they do not have a lot of room for failure. They do not have a lot of room to just like burn endless amounts of money in an effort to get to a certain point necessary. The internet would have never been created under a private structure. It just simply would not happen. And the same is true for novel chemical compound discovery, for example. Like virtually every single novel chemical compound discovery happens in public research. Okay? Other countries that have more robust public research facilities and spend less money actually are per capita creating more novel chemical compounds than the United States of America. There's a reason for that. It's because failure is not viewed in the same way in the public sector as it is in the private one. Failure is a necessary part of scientific discovery. There are many examples of this in every field. What the fuck is a novel chemical compound? Medicine? Yes.
Too much regulation on things because to a certain extent there's still elements within that party, and hopefully it's getting drummed out.
Well, guns is a good issue on overregulation.
Neoliberalism. Guns are
overregulated in ways that don't quite make sense, right? So that's an example of, for instance, semantic definitions of high capacity and standard capacity, what those even mean. But more importantly, the specific example would be in Maryland, they've banned the M1A. But the SCAR 20S is legal, despite the fact, and there's no legal, there's no reason for it other than Democrats just decided we will start regulating these things because it sounds good on paper.
Well, I think that probably the reason is that we have a court that decided.
Reporting from Tim's chat, libertarians literally have answers to every single thing you said. You just don't listen. I mean, I have listened. Toll roads is not an accurate, adequate counter. And court enforcement still needs to be maintained by a state. So if you leave that up to private corporations, the results are not going to be good. A lot of libertarians who work regular 9-to-5 jobs, who fantasize about one day becoming like crypto billionaires or whatever, don't recognize that if you're a serf under this current structure, more deregulation is not going to magically make you a slave owner, a slave master. It's going to make you a slave. But a lot of people think falsely that, like, yeah, I'm actually in a shitty situation right now, but in a structure where there's more exploitation and less safeguards, I'll actually thrive. It's like, no, you won't. The very same people that dominate your lives will be able to dominate them even more. It's going to be the board of executives at Coca-Cola that make these decisions, as they do currently within the confines of a state structure.
In 2008, after almost 200 years in this country of not perceiving an individual right to carry a gun, but only in the context of
the idea that libertarianism involves CP or getting rid of driver's licenses, the age of consent, are just stereotypes. It's interesting that they're just stereotypes, even though it seems to be the only things that they advocate for in their own conferences. Like, Tim Pool is not a libertarian. Is Rothbard not a libertarian? Libertarianism simply means you have the freedom to do whatever you want as long as your actions don't harm others. Okay. Deregulation does not mean no regulation. Limited government does not mean no government. I feel like you're at odds with some of your fellow libertarians, at least the most public-facing ones, whether they are in academia or ones that are publicly advocating for these positions. Every single libertarian is like, this other guy isn't a real libertarian. He's fake and gay. Yeah.
being a well-regulated militia, that because the court has lurched so far to the right over the past 2 decades, particularly most recently, that I think the idea is that you chip away at this from a legal perspective to try and build a legal precedent by doing, you know, whatever. I mean, I'm not familiar with that specific regulation, but I would imagine that's the idea. We're going to get as much regulation as we can in this. I don't know.
Side note, please go back to your previous lighting setup. It was better somehow. I disagree. And I think Chad will disagree with you as well. I think Chad likes this new lighting setup a lot more. It makes the camera quality a lot better. Like, the camera literally looks better. It's lit better.
So, like, what's the damage done by that? Maybe from the perspective.
Made people felons who have, like, an archaic... it's unfair to call it archaic, I guess, but, like, the M1 Garand is like a Vietnam weapon, and the M1A is a more modern version, but it's like a wood stock, and it's got like it's a 308. The Scar 20S is a modern AR-15 style variant, which is substantially more efficient.
Well, I am definitely in favor of outlawing, you know, all of them, if that makes it easier.
Every single one.
Well, I listen. I think that people. I have no problem with people using weapons that are specifically for hunting. You know, that's I'm okay with that. But
see how I segued into guns now?
Well, I'm happy to. You know, I mean, it's absurd. I think.
It's a bit of a forced segue.
But you know, the Supreme Court has lurched to the right, and
completely
we have
agree.
2 Supreme Court justices on the right who I think want to retire in Alito and in Clarence Thomas, and I would love Donald Trump not to have the opportunity to appoint their successors.
I don't want to go too. I want to stay on the guns for a bit, but the sign's pointing to a Trump victory. It doesn't mean he's going to win. I don't know if he's going to win.
Didn't you tell me we were driving up and somebody asked me if I'd been on your show before, and I said, yeah. I don't know what show it was because you got so many. But
it was actually this channel.
Okay.
That was like 7 years ago.
And nobody can find that interview, but I'm quite convinced that you also predicted a Trump victory then. And that must have been like, it was pre-COVID.
Well, this was like 2017, 2018.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe not, but I'm pretty sure it was.
I mean, I am unclear as to who's going to win this election.
Nobody knows.
I see positive signs for Harris, but I can't tell if that's me being aspirational or not. So,
Well, I would certainly say I learned my lesson with 2020, right? So I'm
Damn! Wait, no way. Yo, he did not just say that. Bro said 50 states landslide. No, did he say 49 state? I don't want to get it wrong. Bro said 49 state landslide for Trump, dude. What was the one state that loses? What was the one godless commie freak state? Was it California? No, I don't even think it was California. I think it was like it was like Colorado or something, or Vermont that was going to stay Democrat.
I'm looking at, for instance, Moody's Analytics, and they always release this economic report where they're like, here's our projections.
I gotta
and they
pee.
tout how it's historically accurate. And then what I think I saw was there was an increase in support for Trump. And what I thought I was calling out accurately was an increase in opposition to Trump, but the opposition certainly was greater. But I think the biggest function of 2020 was Republicans just don't know how to win elections. That's why I think the last Republican to win a popular vote was it Reagan, I think?
no, well, Bush in his second election did, but he did that by basically coming out and bashing gay people and driving out
war.
no, I think that was actually despite the fact, I mean, in the wake of 9/11, there was a lot of intimidation by the Republicans, and they attacked a lot of Democrats for being, Max Cleland, who lost both his arms and his legs or an arm and two of his legs, I think it was. He was running for re-election in Georgia, and they called him Osama bin Laden.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, who knows? Hillary Clinton had a 95% chance of winning, and the 5% came in. So I don't. But let's get back to. I'm going to ask you about the Supreme Court, because it sounds like you have a problem with how their right would shift. Is that right?
The first challenge is like right and left mean different things in different areas of governance and culture and things like this. So it's when we talk about right.
Well, I'm talking about in terms of the Supreme Court, in the context of what a Supreme Court does. I mean, they don't dictate culture so much as they dictate law.
No, what I mean is, like you say, rightward shift, and defining what right and left are in different contexts, I think, matters, because if we say,
in the context of the Supreme Court, rightward shift would be one which
traditionalist, I would say, versus progressive. That's what I'm trying to draw the distinction on, because like right economic they're certainly not right economic to a certain degree.
The Supreme Court is not right wing in terms of economic.
The Supreme Court is not okay. Yeah, I mean, he said the same thing, but wait, what? That's perhaps the most insane thing that Tim Pool has ever said on his broadcast, and there is a litany of insane things that he has said. He is known to say the Supreme Court is directly at odds with the overwhelming majority of the public. They are so right wing. They basically said that American corporations can hire child slaves. Okay. And that no such financial restitution can occur, even if said child slaves grow up and then, launch a legal case against these corporations, as long as they are done by third-party contractors that hire out the help. Also, they just talked about the Chevron deference, and Tim agreed with Sam, I thought. They are anti-union, anti-labor rights. They're anti-cleaning. They're anti-enforcement. It's ridiculous.
Economics?
So right economics to imply more like laissez-faire capitalism versus...
oh my God, they're completely attacking the government's ability to...
Like, the Supreme Court is so right-wing that liberal justices are also often very right wing in the decision making when it comes to economic issues.
Regulate. They're completely attacking the government and disempowering the government is basically saying, like, I mean, government is always.
That's not laissez-faire, right?
It is almost definitionally laissez-faire. Yeah.
Well, no, like allowing large corporations to have revolving door policies and protections for large corporations is not
revolving door policies. What is that? What do you mean?
Like when, like the CEO of Halliburton gets a job in government or something like this, right?
Well,
when there's an exchange between government.
Laissez-faire is where you basically is. I mean,
yeah, buyer
I think
beware,
it's a smokes. No, that's caveat emptor.
I know. That's why I'm insulting it.
Laissez-faire is where essentially, and I think it's a little bit of a smokescreen, but laissez-faire specifically means you're the government completely.
It literally means hands free. Like what? What does Tim think? What does Tim think that means?
Backs off and does not intervene in
right.
what's going on.
And what I'm saying is I think many of these powerful elites that we would describe as right are in favor of protections for their buddies and their billionaires.
Well, the reality of neoliberalism as it coming out of Mont Pelerin and the society, it was ultimately about a protection racket.
Hands free means something else. Hands off. Let it be. That's what it is. Or let
for
do.
A specific industry or a specific players within an industry.
But fair point. More right word than like relative to where we are. Yes, completely agree.
No, it's just it's almost definitionally right.
Right word shift. Yeah, I think I was pulling hairs. You know.
Well,
but anyway, so I agree to a certain extent. I'm fairly modern on a lot of issues. I think there's got to be some push and pull. I think I'd like to see a Democratic Party.
This is my number one theory. This is more than like my nuclear doctrine. Okay, you need to understand this. This is something that I genuinely believe. It's something that I talk about all the time. I've noticed the majority of conservatives are the way they are because they don't understand basic definitions. Yes, so much of the liberals do it too. Yes, liberals are also conservative. So there are, or I'll have a lot of conservative associations or conservative leanings on certain issues. But yes, specifically modern American conservatism unironically revolves around just not knowing basic facts about most issues. Okay? It is an ideology that is built around ignorance and having no adequate puzzle pieces to like logically comprehend what is happening, and instead making up your own mind about how things are the way they are or why things are the way they are. That's all this is. It's entirely vibes based. It has it lacks facts. And that most of the conservative arguments that are presented, regardless of how intellectualized they may seem, can be dismantled with some pretty basic entry-level facts. This is precisely the reason why when Ben Shapiro, who I would say is probably one of the best conservative speakers, like one of the most like intellectually presenting conservative speakers, was actively dismantled by 25 woke college students because they were, you know, they were very knowledgeable on some of these key facts. That's it. That's it. Like, I'm reminded of the conversation that Mason had with Ben, right? Our GOAT, our warrior, our Jubilee warrior, one hand politics, where he basically was like, don't you think that the incredibly restrictive immigration process that makes it so that the average processing time for like legal pathways of migration into this country are 10 years or more makes it so that many people choose to cut the line or use illegal means to get in? And but they weren't college students. Yeah, I know. I'm just sorry. Woke people, okay? Don't get caught up on that. Some of them were college students, others were not. But like that's it. And Ben had no answer for that. That is just like entry level reality shit, right? If you are even a little bit intellectually curious about the matter, you look into it and you're like, well, it does seem like the legal pathways of citizenship are just so unimaginably restrictive that this probably increases illegal pathways of migration for a lot of people that are seeking asylum or, escaping dire circumstances back home. And if there was a legal pathway, that most people would just go through the legal means.
That provides sound regulation in key areas that matter, like we're talking about lead and water and things like this. And then I'd like to see actually any party, I don't care who does it, like it's a sound reason to be like, hey, don't dump lead and garbage in our water. But at the same time, it's also to say, hey, we should reassess what we blocked and why we blocked it. Then maybe there's some regulations.
What specifically are you talking about?
Like certain things to be deregulated.
Like what?
So the M1A, for instance, right? So I brought it to guns. My point is just in general.
What's the what?
It's a specific example of where Democrats have regulated firearms in a way that makes literally no sense.
Okay, it makes no
Doesn't do
sense.
anything.
What's the downside here?
Making people felons for owning something while
How
allowing
many of those people have been made felons by owning a
10,000? I don't know more.
10,000 felons? There are 10,000 felons in. When was this in Maryland?
You mean convicted?
No, you said felon. I'm just asking.
Right. So I'll give you an example. The pistol brace ruling, right? So when the courts ruled that pistol braces made a pistol a short-barreled rifle, I actually had to dismantle a bunch of my weapons and separate. And there was no law passed. There was no act of Congress.
That's some pussy shit, Tim. You should have been fucking defending your freedom from the ATF, brother.
Was ATF making an arbitrary decision that I was now committing felonies for simply having owned a legal product that I bought that was legal at the time. And Congress never passed this law. So now I risk prison over a nonsensical regulation.
You were talking about Democrats and
overregulating things.
But you just said that this was not a law that was passed. It was an assessment made by the courts.
No, it wasn't by the courts. It was the ATF, arbitrarily.
And
this is the Chevron ruling, that the agencies have a right to self-regulate and make their determinations. So the ATF, this is partly why people on the right were celebrating this, because the ATF was arbitrarily deciding that it was now a crime without any act of Congress. So we had to actually, I had to go
so
dismantle.
aside from these instances with you don't like some of these gun regulations, what other regulations do you have a problem with?
I don't know. I mean, there are certain things that I want to be regulated more than I think.
I think this is a really funny conversation to be having with respect to the ATF, because like the pistol brace ban is not in effect. I think this is the one area that like Sam is not super knowledgeable on, which is why Tim can come across like he knows what the fuck he's talking about, because the court struck it down, claiming it to be arbitrary. And that, yes, Sam has already conceded that there are oftentimes like arbitrary restrictions that are implemented by the regulatory agencies. And that is a problem. Like, I don't think that you need to be a gun pervert in general, but this is the one area where like even the most basic Republican can just kind of cook up liberals and people on the left, because they are such insane gun perverts that they know all of the most annoying fucking rules and restrictions. Like, I know this from living in the state of California, right? Like, California has had a pistol brace restriction, or a pistol brace restriction in perpetuity. It's like kind of fucking annoying. That's why a lot of the like assault weapons, like AR platform and the like, have that like really annoying way of holding it. Like, you can't grip it. And there are like silly regulations. There are silly regulations surrounding guns in different states. Having said that, however, I think that what is like the reason why these agencies do like patchwork solutions in general and states do patchwork solutions in general is because of the endless amount of paperwork that organizations like the NRA and other like gun freedom organizations launch against each individual state, and they stop any kind of like common sense legislation at the federal level, and that we can never actually have like decent gun control. So most of this stuff is just like patchwork solutions that are easy to get around with loopholes. I think it's like it's a really stupid situation. Haas confirmed closet gun pervert. No. Pistol grip is different than the pistol brace he's crying about. He wants an SBR. Yeah, it's like a mini version. I'm a stupid leftist California gun pervert, so I know the details. A lot of these laws, especially in California, are performative, so politics can say they pass gun control laws. Yeah, except I also do think that California, there's a reason why the state of California has significantly lower levels of gun violence than the national average, because gun control legislation, stupid or not, might actually end up, harming, might actually hurt the feelings or make it more annoying for people who enjoy shooting weapons. But the reality is, no, there are definitely performative ones. You're wrong. There are definitely performative gun control legislation. Like I just gave you an example. I gave you an example of performative gun control legislation, like not being able to, like not having a pistol grip on an assault weapon is like literally one of those examples. The problem is the most effective way, your stream is shadow banned? No, it's not. No, we have political discourse tags now. And no, I am not shadow banned. I'm the fourth largest stream on the platform right now. That'd be crazy to consider that being shadow banned. If you're fighting with anything but a blade, you aren't a warrior. Facts. True.
Think about in terms of
Like what?
deregulation. The lead in the water pipes is the easiest example.
Lead is actually.
And why isn't it being enforced is the question, I suppose. But
Well,
also,
it is being enforced. I mean, the
there-
problem at what
about
happened
uranium too.
what happened in
Just so you know, your stream doesn't show on my Alexa Echo show anymore. It used to show as soon as I went on Twitch. Now I have to put in the URL. I mean, it seemingly hasn't been successful, the shadow banning. Maybe.
in Michigan was that you had a Republican governor who wanted to basically disempower a.
You don't show up in just chatting in incognito. I mean, we can test this very quickly. Oops. Let's see. Twitch.tv/directory all in incognito. Recommended for you. Views high to low. Boom. I'm right there. Let's do, how do we do categories? Just chatting. Recommended for you. High to low. Boom. Right there. Recommended for you. I don't show up. I'm not recommended. That might be because, Twitch does not recommend me. That's understandable. It is interesting, however, that Asmongold's commentary also revolves around politics, but he's at the top of the recommended board. But I guess his type of politics is considered more permissible and not as political. Like he probably doesn't get hit with the politics tag, but it's all good. I'm going to talk about the Trump Epstein tapes in a second. Yes, after this. Hassan, you literally do politics 10 hours a day? Yeah, I know. I'm not. Shadow ban equals not showing up and recommended. It's fine, I think.
A city that was, frankly, largely African American city, and
I think gambling should be regulated. I am no fan of the deregulation. I think what we
but I'm specifically, I get that you have some issue with some like very marginal
phthalates
gun
should
stuff.
be regulated.
But what should not be regulated? Like you said that.
Yeah, your existing cloud is what's getting people to click on your stream. All these people on here probably know you or of you, but getting newer viewers from Twitch might be harder now. It's fine. It is what it is. Even during a shadow ban, you're getting the same amount of viewers as you always do. Who cares? Doesn't matter at all. You show up and recommend it on incognito, just way down. Yeah. Yeah. Discoverability on Twitch has always been a massive issue. I don't think there is like an active shadow banning though. What will you do if politics is banned off Twitch? I don't think politics will get banned off Twitch. But I'll go somewhere else. Not being recommended as much because you're tagged as politics does not equal a shadow ban amount. I agree. Holy shit! Did an anonymous user gift 100 gifted subs? What the fuck? Yeah, I think I'll be fine, chat. I think we're good, boys. Law tip, dink doink, another instance of conservatives not knowing how things work. All regulatory agencies must be created by an act of Congress. Congress cedes its power to these regulatory agencies when they create them via statute. Straight out of the Constitution. This is why the Looper Bright is so brain dead. This is why the Loper Bright is so brain dead, because the entire point of these agencies is to take the load off of Congress and actually tackle the issues. Mate Feed Art, thank you for the 100 gifted subs. God damn.
You have a problem with what Democrats are doing in terms of regulation.
As long as I got my Oilers, dude. As long as I got my Oilers and my subscribers, we'll be fine, I think.
Curious as to
I think that's an overestimation. I think that I would
and
I would like to
Zylax
see
with another gifted.
regulations
Holy
reassessed
shit.
and then either.
But which ones? What are you talking about?
I'm saying we should have a review of regulation in general.
So you think we should review every single regulation that exists?
I think they should have sunset clauses.
Why?
Well, because nothing's infinite, nothing's absolute. You know, we might say, for instance, okay, I'll give you an example of regulation.
Lead's always going to be bad for people.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So that one we wouldn't sunset, right?
Agreed.
Monty G, thank you for the five gifted.
We're talking about if we apply a regulation to a specific body or something, a body of water, perhaps. The body of water may change. So, I'll give you an example.
Like we have
toxins in the water are always going to be toxic.
Which is why, like I said, I'm in favor of more regulation. And that the deregulation thing is just a safeguard on we shouldn't be making sure that we're reassessing periodically.
Why would you sunset those regulations on what is poisonous in water, for instance?
I wouldn't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you just said that.
That's why I said I think it's an overestimation of. I think you may overestimate what I'm trying to say.
No.
Is that typically I think like phthalates, for instance, should be regulated. I don't believe there's a quote unquote free market solution to keeping endocrine disruptors in our food. That makes no sense.
No, I agree with that. I don't think that's controversial. But
there are regulations on things like your vehicles, your engine standards, guns, for instance. And I'm not saying I know specifically each and every regulation that should be deregulated. I think it is prudent for a society to say, hey, there's no market solution to stop people putting poison in our food. Our food has become just trash. But there is still a circumstance where we do understand that not every government application is going to be permanent or will work permanently. And I can put it a different way. There may come a point where the regulation isn't strong enough. And if we don't reassess what the law is.
Oh, I have no problem with strengthening regulations. I just, when you say deregulate or we should have regulations sunset or anything like that, I mean,
it just depends on what
you understand that, like, what we're talking about here is there is a battle between people who would profit privately.
Okay, is there a hype train happening? Am I my bourbon gamer, thank you for the 5 gifted. I think you guys want this real bad.
Oh my God, I will vote.
I'm sorry.
I will vote.
For Donald Trump.
Oh my God, I will vote. I will vote. I will vote for Donald Trump. The people go out to vote, no fear, no more. Vote for Trump. Let's go. Vote for Trump. If you wanna keep America great, vote for Trump. Let's do it. I vote for Trump. Come on. Oh my God, I will vote.
Woke. They're woke. Okay, I gotta say something about this. Last night, I was talking to Eddie Bareback about how much of a bop this song is, how much of a banger it is. And we started singing it at the club. And because it got stuck in my head, on the way back home, I caught myself humming this in the Uber. And I had to stop myself because, like, I was worried that the Uber driver was going to think I'm a fucking Trump supporter. For Donald Trump. I'm so cooked. God bless America. I will vote. I will vote for Donald Trump. The problem is, like, the most, like, earwormy part of this song is when, you know, they say, I will vote. Oh my God, I will vote. I will vote for Donald Trump. And so that's the part that you sing. And then if that's the part that you sing, the average onlooker is not going to know what your fucking political perspective is. For Donald Trump. Okay. We love America just like you is such a good line. It's like, it's such a funny line because it's just like, hey, racist, like, we're racist too, I promise. Like, please don't think that we don't love America just because we have like a Hispanic accent. Like, they're trying to get these they're trying to get the racist right wingers to be like, oh, okay. Let's continue.
And socialize the costs. In other words, put it on all of us. So You want to sell. Well, let's just go back to Flint. You want to sell you want privatize this water supply. You want to give contracts to because this is what the Republican governor there wanted to do, and the costs associated. In this instance, like. They wanted to save money by not necessarily treating the water or, by, delivering it in a way that will save them money. But the costs are socialized insofar as you've poisoned thousands of these children.
I went to Flint and I actually ran tests on the water, and it's crazy. The macroeconomic issues at hand in Michigan, and what ends up with like a Republican politician is that for a lot of the people that live in the area, they're not directly impacted by what's happening to these kids, right? For people who live outside the area, they're going to see the news and they're going to say, like, how could this be?
Okay, this conversation is going nowhere. Let's get to the Russia stuff, okay?
That thing or not?
Apparently, it starts around here.
And after the Qatar-Turkey pipeline fails, what ends up happening is Russia, Iran, and Turkey started cutting a deal with it to run a pipeline from the same gas
what
field.
was also problematic about Trump getting out of the Iran nuke deal unilaterally in that respect, right? Because we have now pushed Iran further away into that sphere of influence.
As it pertains to the gas trade-offs and the conflicts in Europe, I don't know. I wouldn't know enough. I can say that even during Obama, the Stuxnet was probably a really bad idea. Are you familiar with Stuxnet?
Yeah, that was Israel.
Israel and the United States teamed up to create a virus that blew up centrifuges in Iran, which act of war much. I'm surprised it didn't escalate in a dangerous way.
I mean, but fortunately, one of the best things that Obama did was to make that nuke deal. Let me ask you this, since you bring up Russia.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that you have to put some type of disclaimer because of the whole tenant thing, or no?
No. I never received money from Russia. We never were given any money to create anything. Tenant Media and
it was all laundered through Tenant Media. I mean, obviously you didn't get you weren't getting paid in rubles.
So I can try. Right. I'll keep it real simple. You have sponsors on your show. Did you ever ask who their investors are? Did you?
The sponsors?
Yeah, like a company comes to you and says, we want to, have you shout us out or something. Do you look into their financiers? Do you dig through their bank accounts?
I mean, we get it all from media brokers, but they weren't advertising on your show. They were,
no, it was
they were paying you a license deal.
A license fee.
Yeah.
So I licensed to Nat Geo. I never asked them who their investors were.
Who, National Geographic?
Yeah.
National Geographic was taking Tim Pool's videos. There's no way, right? What the fuck? What the fuck could he possibly sell them? Like, what would National Geographic syndicate from like the Tim Pool show?
When I licensed through like all these other big distributors, someone comes to me, they say, we want a license. It goes to our lawyer. Our lawyer comes back, says, here's the agreed upon fee. I say, thank you and have a nice day. And then we move on.
So was it just Ruben who asked who Gerard Depardieu or whatever that guy's name was?
I don't know.
Gerard Depardieu. Catching strays. French cinematic actor Gerard Depardieu catching a random stray in this conversation, in this debate, is not something that I thought was going to happen. Okay.
What Dave did or anybody else did?
Did you ask about who that guy was?
Absolutely. And you know what's crazy is...
Well, wait a second. Why did you ask about who that guy was?
Wanted to know. Isn't that due diligence?
Yeah, but you just said you don't ask who the investors are.
No, I said, do you? Like, do you dig into all of these things?
I've never actually been approached with anything even remotely like that.
So when I got reached out to by Discovery and Nat Geo, I said, I'm familiar with what this is. It's whatever.
Yeah, no. If I mean, I licensed my show to Peacock, and
right, you know what they are.
Well, yeah. I mean, National Geographic is a well-known thing. But if somebody comes in and says like, we're going to give you that kind of money for your programming, I'd be like,
how much money do you make on Majority Report?
Fuck is that?
How much money do you make on Majority Report?
How much do I make from on our revenue from the whole show?
All of it, 100%.
I mean, it's six
figures
revenue. Yeah,
per month.
Yeah.
Damn.
So why were you
6 figures? Yeah.
So you're over 100K per month on Majority Report.
I think, well, I mean, some months. I mean, certainly the past couple of months have been really good. Some months are a little bit less.
I think you do a majority. I don't know about your other channels, but you do about 20 million per month in views.
Other channels?
Like, I don't know if you have other shows. I'm saying
no.
Majority Report does about 20 million.
That's it.
And with 20 million views per month, you do over 6 figures.
We had 20 million views for 2 months this year.
If you do 20 million views per month, I think is your YouTube metric.
Well, I mean, it's a little bit less now, but okay.
Oh yeah. If a company came to you and wanted to license the show, which would
I can tell you, Peacock licensed a Majority Report we were on Peacock for a year.
you want to say what they gave you?
I will tell you this, from what I read, you made more in a month than we made in a year.
Maybe that's just bad business on your part, I guess.
Maybe.
So,
or maybe it turns out that they were just a company who had metrics as opposed to like we're trying to get propaganda.
No, I think.
See, I have a theory.
So
I
can tell you how much money we make at this company, right?
I would imagine it's millions.
Million per month, maybe.
Okay.
So when a company comes to me and says, we want to have you, who makes, as a company, $1 million a month, a show in which we will have a non-exclusive distribution, but takes the branding, then we're going to say, in 1 or 2 years, how much do we make on this show per month? Well, it's in excess of $400,000.
This was a new show. This was this show, right?
Well, so there's a few caveats. This channel is my first channel. It's got 1.35 million subscribers. It used to be my biggest channel where I would routinely get 500,000 to 1 million per video, or maybe like 600.
Do you believe Tim's show makes $1 million a month? I wouldn't be shocked. Right wingers have incredibly deep pockets. Like, I wouldn't be shocked about that. Like because there are no restrictions. They do the shittiest ads. They take as many ads as possible. They have financiers as well on top of everything else. And they say left grifting is profitable. Yeah, I know. They say that because there is that is also a part of the right-wing grifting, to be like, left-wing grifting is so profitable. Except everyone that wants to make more money ends up turning right-wing, weirdly enough, either on certain issues or across the board. But like right-wing content right-wing content is catnip for the algorithm. That much is also true. Like, it sucks. It's just the reality, right? Like, there is not really anything you can do about it either. Like, these algorithms unironically boost right-wing shit like crazy. Like Patrick Bet David, I am currently, as it stands, I think 400. I just looked up my social blade stats. 457th in the news rank in the country. I'm the largest left-wing content creator, like, in North America. Largest progressive content creator in North America, and there is like, I'm nowhere near close in terms of like how much more. How many more unimaginably successful right-wing content creators are. And when there is more, or when there are even more right-wing content creators, there's more, you get boosted in the algorithm. Like, the fact that there are a shit ton of channels like that makes it, the fact that there are a shit ton of channels such as that, like right-wing channels, also boosts other right-wing content creators as well. So I don't think it's that crazy that he makes $1 million. But the reason why he's mentioning the Russian, like the payments that he got, is to be like, oh, well, I'm so successful that, like, of course it makes sense that they would give me, like, some random company would give me, $1 million a month to just like license out my content. The problem, on the other hand, is that you were also saying stuff like Ukraine is the enemy of mankind and shit. So, like, where did that come from? Like, it almost feels like you did know that you were getting paid by Russia and were changing your commentary specifically for that.
100,000 per video on certain shows. And then we're talking about doing a show like this where you'll get, you know, you have 1,000,000 subscribers. I've got 1,000,000+ subscribers, or with the other channels, it's big names coming, doing these debates tends to attract a lot of sponsorship. So
You had any other deals like this?
Yes.
Oh, you have had other deals like this.
So,
Because I seem to remember you saying to Emma that you had not, that it was just all from members, or you didn't have any like back
sponsors. There's no backers, right? It's
Tenet, a license deal is not a sponsorship. Like, I mean, I have sponsors.
sales. What do you
Like I
mean?
have, well, it's different.
no
because
one has come to
when-
this company. Well,
when
let's clarify.
Hello
Let's-
Tushy comes and
here's-
says we want to sell bidets.
Here's the
I do
difference.
an ad, but I don't have a license.
No one has come to my companies, plural, and said, I will give you X in exchange for X in terms of the production of content or a stake in the company. We have no investors. We have no backing. We have sales.
Have you had other license deals like that? I'm not talking about a sponsor. Tenet Media was not a sponsor.
It was a non-exclusive distribution license.
Yeah, it was a license deal.
Yeah.
No, I
And,
get that.
so
have you had other license deals like that?
Yes. And so this is not.
With who? Is it another? I mean, I'm just curious.
Well, I got to wait because some of these deals are still in contract negotiations, so I can't.
Oh, so you didn't have any prior to the Tenet, or you did?
I have licensed content to big networks. We have explicitly and on a low scale.
So prior to this, you had licensed it to other big networks.
I'm confused as what I have licensed my content to other big networks.
Prior to the Tenet deal.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
and we also
what were those networks?
so like Nat Geo and Discovery when they hired me for content.
No,
or
no,
when
I'm
they
talking
bought
about
content.
these shows. I'm not talking about when you were, I'm talking about, the whole Timcast world.
Before Tenet, there were 3 negotiations currently taking place, and I can't say too much because I can't violate other contracts. Offers were made.
You're not supposed to tell who you're licensing to?
When you are in contract negotiations, first, you don't go out and just say, "Hey, guess what? This company's offering me right now."
No, of course not. Of course not. I'm not asking what you're in negotiations for the future. I'm saying prior.
All right, so
to
let me
Tenet-
finish. Yes.
Prior to Tenet Media.
Okay.
Had you had any other license deals?
License deals presented that were comparable, and one was chosen.
Okay, so
And some are ongoing.
you never had any other deals. People had proposed them to you, but you'd never
with
signed
higher
a deal.
rates. We were offered more money from other companies.
And you went with Tenet
Yes.
for a license deal.
I was offered a license agreement for comparable. I try to keep it vague, I guess, because
So just to be clear, you never signed another deal before Tenet. You had never had a license deal prior to that as Timcast.
No. Okay, look. Yes, I did. I said it like 5 times now.
Oh,
I've licensed content to a ton of networks.
I was just curious as to what networks those were. I don't know why you're getting so upset.
Because I've said it 5 times. You keep asking the same question over and over again.
Wait, no, he didn't. He just said Nat Geo.
You said Nat Geo, and,
So I've licensed content to like Discovery, Net Geo, and then there's media buyers who
but
do
not
general-
as Timcast. Not
Yes,
like
yes, just quite literally as Timcast from this channel.
Damn,
Oh,
he's
really,
getting
dude?
fucking
That's-
hella mad. Bro, yo, chill. This is supposed to be a reasonable, dare I say, friendly discussion. You asked Sam Seder about how much money he fucking makes every month, and he responded kindly. He didn't fucking start yelling. Why is he getting so defensive? Goddamn.
Geo. Okay.
Yes, and I've even appeared on their networks. So I can say it a million times. We were dealing with negotiations. We give the deal to our lawyers. Our lawyers come back and say, "Looks good," and then we start. The show already existed.
Yeah. No, I never thought that you were in the bag for. Well, I mean, I never
Russia's a
thought
bunch
they
of
were
scumbags.
telling you what to do. I just thought it was.
I think the funniest question should be, in this circumstance, do you think it's the patriotic thing to take all the money that you've gotten from the Russian government, as the FBI correctly pointed out, and give it to Ukrainian charities? Do you feel like that would be the patriotic thing to do? Take all of the money that the Russian government has given you. Do you feel like that would be the right, appropriate thing to do? And give it directly to Ukrainian charities, especially after you called Ukraine the enemy of mankind. I would want to know what his answer to that would be. I think that'd be funny.
Was a lot of money to be getting, and not asking who, Gerard Depardieu was or whatever the guy's name, Gregorian.
So the issue I think is worthy of clarification is like you yourself make 6 figures a month on your show.
Well, that's our revenue of the show. I don't make that.
Right. The revenue of this show and otherwise like $1 million doesn't go in my pocket every month, but we have staff and we have employees. And so it's around there. So when a company comes, and we had several, and they say, this is huge. We had a $30 million.
Are you back in negotiations with those people?
Yes.
I would imagine.
Especially considering...
It feels like you've had to, what was this whole thing? Were you shutting down the show? Or
That's exactly what I was going to say, right? Like, I can't be the CEO, the principal talent, and a dad. It's already difficult to do.
Maybe I'm not such a bad businessman.
Maybe you're a good dad.
I got 2 kids, and but whatever. That's it.
Well, so like I've got to record 4 shows today. And that's an impossibility with a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why like last week I'm like, I can keep doing the morning show because that will keep me occupied.
You shut down your news operation too, didn't you?
Scanner is still in operation, but it's like.
Didn't you have like a news like a website or something?
Yeah, we still do. And so there was we did Timcast News for a while, and then we had another company called Scanner that we are trying to get off the ground, and it's still there, but we're in a holding pattern. Content is still being produced for Scanner, but we have to figure out, like, here's the reality, man. News articles, the news media is a very, very difficult thing to monetize.
Very tough. Very tough.
You can write articles all day and night. You can send reporters on the ground, which we do, and then figuring out how to make that sustainable is incredibly difficult. And it gets to that point where, we can't. But I will say, in regards to what happened Monday, last week, oh yeah. So one of the offers we got was $30 million. And it comes with caveats. And so we go to these other companies and say, what are your terms? What are your offers? What are your terms? What are your offers? And then ultimately Tenet we were like, we'll go with them. That's whatever. We go to our lawyer goes through it. We say, all right.
Tenet didn't pay $30 million, did they?
No.
Sounds like they paid a hefty amount. I mean, if you're Dave Rubin, what do you think about that? If you're Dave Rubin and somebody says, we're going to give you $100,000 a video, doesn't that make you go what's up with this?
No, because what's interesting in the indictment is you can see that independent of each other, several people made the same negotiations. A lot of this goes through agents, and agents go to a market standard rate when you're negotiating.
I understand. I've dealt with agents, but
but you don't set your price. Your agent's going to tell you what you're going to be able to get from something, right? Or do you go to your agent? You could go to your agent and say, I'll only do the job for this amount. I get it. But
there's, in my mind, very little shot that Tim did not know that he was getting paid by Russia. I do not. I'm sorry. There's just no. No. Especially because of that famous clip. That clip alone to me is that's, this is it, brother. This is pretty.
Ukraine, and they know it. But I don't know that it matters anymore. This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine. They are expanding this war. Now, don't get me wrong. I know you've got criminal elements of the U.S. government pushing them and guiding them and telling them what to do. Ukraine is now accused, a German warrant issued for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, triggering this conflict. Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world. We should rescind.
Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and the world. Like, Ukraine is the greatest threat to the nation and the world. That is insane, dude. Like,
end all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia.
I didn't even. We should apologize to Russia. We should apologize to Russia for invading Ukraine. Like, as you guys know, I have had, I would say, a fairly reasonable, fairly rational take on trying to find a long-standing, peaceful solution to the unjustifiable, immoral, barbaric invasion of Ukraine conducted by the Russian government. And it's like, and yet, of course, many people have said time and time again that I am pro-Russia over and over again. Those people have never really listened to what I have to say, I think, because if you have ever listened to me talk about Russia, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, I have consistently maintained the position that it is completely unacceptable. This is the most insane thing I've ever heard. We must apologize to Russia. Like, come on, dude. That is incredible stuff.
Usually, there's, it's going to be like, look, this is the kind of job that's going to pay in a range of here. The company's got this much. Here's what you're going to be able to get for it. So, for instance, like 500,000 views might be $10,000 in ads, right?
Okay.
That's market standard. So if you're talking CPM and I call like an ad sales guy and they say, hey, this company wants to sponsor you, you get 500,000 on the show, they're going to give you $10,000. I can say, right, that's the market range. And so then I might try and argue a premium and be like, well, I'm Tim Pool, so I think you should give me 15. And then they'll come back and say, no.
We're not talking about sponsorships.
We're talking about the value of a license agreement where a company would have the ability to run sponsorships on their end.
Right.
So if we're talking about, say, Timcast IRL in the morning show, which we do around $1 million in revenue per month, then a comparable show is going. You're going to say this when you're licensing a show. If we run the show by ourselves for a year or two, then here's how much we're going to generate in sponsorships, memberships, et cetera, by the end of year 2, 3, 4, and 5. If we do a license deal, we jump the gun. We generate lesser revenue than we would in the long term, but it closes the gap sooner.
No, I get it. I understand why you would take it. I would take that money if somebody came to me and offered that, but I would be like, wait, what's going on here?
But you would be, I mean, we have 3 different companies coming at us. They're all known American enterprises. I mean, I will say one thing too, like Lauren Chen's was working at the Blaze. You know what I mean? This is not like some strange person appeared out of nowhere.
Raises questions to me about
what's up with the Blaze.
I mean, I think, it's quite clear to me that, there was reports about like, in the run up to the election, George Santos was on a Zoom call where people were getting paid at least $20,000 to put out stuff that Kamala Harris was a slut on their social media and stuff like that. And I'm like, I've been doing this for 20 years, And, it's not a huge amount of competition on the left. Nobody's ever offered me $5 to do anything like that.
Let me let you in on the secret. This has been true for a long time. So your revenue for Majority Report, is it largely YouTube based, or do you do like ad reads as well?
It's ad reads, it's members, it's YouTube.
You have YouTube programmatic, so do we. Like programmatic ads means like your YouTube channel will show you how much you made from YouTube's ads.
Yes.
So Russia can go on your YouTube channel through Google Ads and put $10,000 a month into your channel without you knowing.
Okay.
And you'd have no way to track or control any of that. So this.
It's okay.
This does happen though, where.
So this in and of itself is not an appropriate argument because the responsibility is in the hands of YouTube, to ensure that this does not happen. And they do already have protections against that sort of thing. You got directly paid for your content and maybe even the actual contents of your content